All right, what's up, everybody, and welcome into A Bettor Morning presented by Rival Fantasy. It's your host, Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. Once again, Rival Fantasy is the all-in-one fantasy sports platform, and you should be logging on to Rival Fantasy right now and getting ready for tonight, because tonight is one of the high holy days in the world of sports. Thursday night kickoff of the NFL season. All the planning, all the talking, all the procrastinating, protagonisting, whatever you call that word, everything that we've been doing the past couple months all lead up to tonight and what happens after the night as we get ready to get into the best time of year. The NFL season is upon us, and it all kicks off tonight with the Detroit Lions at the Kansas City Chiefs. Mega matchup. We'll tell you how we get there. Also, a little bit later on in the program, got a college football showdown this weekend between Texas and Alabama that we want to get to. And Nick Bosa has reported in San Francisco. Him and the 49ers are on the road again to start the season this year. Last year, they lost the opener in Chicago. This year, they go to the Steel City to take on a team that is, people are very optimistic about the Pittsburgh Steelers, so we'll get into that. But we got to start with what is going on today between the Chiefs and the Lions. Right now, latest number as of this morning, the Kansas City Chiefs remain a 4.5-point favorite in this game. Detroit Lions 4.5-point underdog. Total right now sitting at 53. That 53 has come down from 54.5 just earlier this week. So I guess the news of Travis Kelce injury, coupled with the fact that that is probably some sharp money hitting that number, brings that number down. This could still be a high-scoring game. Definitely got some things we need to keep an eye on as we get ready for this contest tonight. What is Kansas City Chiefs defensive tackle Chris Jones' status for the night? That's going to be very important. Now, I'm not so worried about Chris Jones being in shape, because I believe that type of prime athlete, despite not being at training camp, probably going to show up for that game check. He was at a charity event yesterday, and he kind of said, listen, I want to raise, but if a deal gets done, I can still be out there tomorrow. So if Jones is out there, I would expect him to continue to be effective. And talked about him yesterday. Dominant three technique defensive tackle like that can really be a game wrecker. He can get in the paint and get in the face of Jared Goff. That can really help force this game to the under. Now, obviously, the big news in this game is the status of Travis Kelce. It's been reported that Travis Kelce will be questionable, likely be a game-time decision for the night. That hyperextended knee seems to be intact. No ACL or major ligament damage for Travis Kelce. But we are still talking about a player getting into his 34-year-old season. But he is exactly the man in that offense when it comes to catching the football from Patrick Mahomes. So that's how we set the scene. Now, you may be wondering, what the hell are the Detroit Lions doing playing in the prime time opener? Obviously, you expect the Kansas City Chiefs to be there. They play in the opener every year because they seem to be in the Super Bowl, winning the championship every year. Lord knows they're in every AFC championship game. But the Detroit Lions are not the kind of team that you expect to be in a prime spot like this. Well, you know what? It all started last year with Hard Knocks, when there was a buzz around this Detroit Lion franchise that the lovable losing Lions was getting ready to be a better team. And throughout the course of the second half of the season last year, their head coach, Dan Campbell, who is not a great head coach by any stretch of the imagination, but he's a good motivator. He's a guy that the media likes a lot. They got behind him. And you know what? To their credit, the Detroit Lions went on a run, barely missed the playoffs last year, but they went on a run down the stretch of last season, and where they were able to pull together some wins and come out looking strong and gain a lot of steam and momentum coming into the season this year. Now, with that being said, putting them in this spot and this opening game is not something that I expected. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles do play Kansas City in Kansas City this year. They should have just ran that one back. That would have been a logical explanation if you ask me. But no, the NFL puts the Detroit Lions in this spot. And although that total is ticking down at 54.5 from 53, I don't know. I still kind of feel like this game was put together because of fantasy football. I think there is going to be offensive fireworks in this game. You know the pieces on that Detroit Lions offense. You know how they can get up and down the field. You know what Amon-Ra St. Brown, who has turned himself into a first-round fantasy asset, can do. Who's not optimistic about Jahmyr Gibbs joining and replacing DeAndre Swift? Swift couldn't get it done. Gibbs, who's a similar type of back, maybe he can come in there and get it done. Won't have Jameson Williams on that offense. A lot of people are excited about Sam Laporta and golf, period. So the offense is going to be there for the Detroit Lions. Now, without Travis Kelce, will the offense be there for the Kansas City Chiefs? That's the one I'm not so sure of. Now, one thing that I will say is this. One of the things I like for tonight is Patrick Mahomes rushing yards. I think Patrick Mahomes in a game like this is going to, if he doesn't have his main weapon, him taking off and running a little bit more, have Mahomes rushing total at 17.5. I would go higher than 17.5 for Patrick Mahomes rushing total. I think in a game that's going to be tightly contested like this, where he may not have his number one target, I think that Mahomes is going to go ahead and use his legs to get a little bit more yardage in offense. So give me Mahomes higher on his rushing stats tonight. Now, when you go and look at some of the other items that take place in this game, anytime touchdown scorer market is also a very popular market. When you look at anytime touchdown scorers, Jerick McKinnon of the Kansas City Chiefs, so a lot of people are pivoting to tonight. He is plus 190 as an anytime touchdown scorer. Isaiah Pacheco is plus 135 as an anytime touchdown scorer. Sky Moore, who a lot of people are in on this year. With me, I'm not so heavy into these no-name Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers. Now, Patrick Mahomes did talk him up this year in the offseason, but he's talked up guys like Demarcus Robinson before, and they don't never hit. So I'd be wary of Sky Moore and Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Noah Gray. To me, Noah Gray's a sucker's bet. On the Detroit Lions side, anytime touchdown odds, the David Montgomery at plus 115, Jahmyr Gibbs at plus 125, and Amon-Ra St. Brown at plus 130. St. Brown, these numbers are not great, to be honest with you, in the anytime touchdown market. But maybe St. Brown can get some love. But my favorite one really is the fantasy stat, the higher on the Patrick Mahomes 17.5 yard rushing. Heather tells me that it just went up to plus 200. Okay, all right. So apparently, I guess the public is with me on that one right there. But as far as wagering on the contest, it's probably going to be the Patrick Mahomes higher, right? And I'm probably going to take the Lions 4.5, and I'm going to sprinkle the money line. Now, am I a big believer in the Lions this season? No. But I think tonight is a good night to back the dog. And I also think that Chris Jones is very, very critical to this game. If Jones doesn't play, I think Goff has a field day. I would actually take the Lions team total over. I believe it might be something like 23.5 or 21.5, something like that. So that's where I would go with that number right there. Now, Chris Jones hasn't yet to report, but we did get San Francisco All-Star defensive player Joey Bosa in camp. He's going to be ready to go. He's expected to play this upcoming Sunday in Pittsburgh when the terrible Towels get the rocking and rolling as the San Francisco 49ers make a trip to the East Coast. Now there's always this thing, West Coast team playing on the East Coast at 1 o'clock. There's nothing statistical that proves that West Coast teams traveling east for a 1 o'clock game have a disadvantage. We just think that they have a disadvantage, right? So I'm not worried about that. But what I am worried about is Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers offense. I'm worried about that offensive line going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. When you give Mike Tomlin essentially a whole offseason to get ready for one game, I can guarantee you that that team is going to come out hot. Now, this number has gone from 3 down to 2.5. It touched 1 in some places. I think Pittsburgh goes off as the favorite. I think you see a ton of sharp money come in on the Steelers on Sunday morning. And I think this game is pick 'em or a Pittsburgh Steeler as a 1-point favorite. So I would hop on that Steelers money line ASAP. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to win this game right here, despite Bosa joining his teammates in Pittsburgh for this big-time matchup. Listen, San Francisco is still one of the dominant teams in the NFC, mainly because the NFC does not have any dominant teams. But their first matchup versus the Seattle Seahawks this year is going to be very intriguing. As a matter of fact, both their games are. I think the Seahawks are on par with the San Francisco 49ers. So I think it's going to be an interesting season in that NFC West. Fantasy football information. Let me tell you something right quick. Some of you still out there drafting. That means you can still start a free 7-day trial of Fantasy Alarm's All-Pro subscription and get the fantasy football draft guide and cheat sheet for free. You want to go to fantasyalarm.com/draft. It's how you get that done. I know a couple guys be drafting all the way through until really basically Sunday morning to get them last lineup set, obviously, in some of the stakes leagues like the FFPC and stuff like that. You can draft throughout the course of the whole weekend and be good to go. Injury news for this week. Cooper Kupp has been ruled out Sunday versus the Seahawks. And he actually could go on IR, meaning he would miss the first month of the season. The Cooper Kupp guys, the guys that drafted Cooper Kupp, got to feel pretty bad about them. That includes myself in a couple of leagues where I got a couple dollars on. I got Cooper Kupp in those leagues, and that is problematic. You know what I'm saying? This Kupp already starts the season in a bad light. You know, you got Jerry Jeudy, you got Cooper Kupp, Travis Kelce. So you already know fantasy football can be a battle of attrition. So we're getting ready to get things started. So hopefully your fantasy teams are in good shape. But if you do have more drafts to do, that cheat sheet over there at Fantasy Alarm can help you get that done. You get a 7-day free trial when you go to fantasyalarm.com/draft. Get that draft guide and cheat sheet. And obviously just rock with them throughout the whole course of the regular season because they're going to get it done. Now, Cooper Kupp's team, the St. Louis Rams, they ain't been in St. Louis in years. And what's funny about that, the legendary John Madden would always call the Indianapolis Colts the Baltimore Colts. They was going from Baltimore for 20 years, and John Madden was still calling them the Baltimore Colts. The Rams ain't been in St. Louis in a lot of people in my son's lifetime. Yet today, for some odd reason, I get ready to call them the St. Louis Rams. Now, the Los Angeles Rams, the Rams of Los Angeles, they will be tonight. They will be, this weekend they open up against Seattle. And a lot of people are targeting Seattle as a team that they want to bet this weekend. Later number with Seattle, I believe it's 5.5, right? A lot of people are looking at Seattle as a possible team in Survivor. Let me tell you something about Survivor. Be very careful picking division games for Survivor. Because you look at Seattle and you look at the Rams on paper and you think this is Seattle. At home, better team, no Cooper Kupp. What you don't realize is that ATS-wise, the Rams are 8-1 in their last 9 games versus the Seahawks against the spread. So Sean McVay is the kind of coach that can go into Seattle and win one right quick. There's familiarity between the two programs. And like I said, this early in the season, you spend the whole offseason looking at one opponent. That game is not going to make my ticket. I love the Seahawks this year, but I'm laying off that one on week 1. If you put that one in Survivor, you're going to be biting your nails coming down the stretch of that game right there. So, but yeah, we do see where Cooper Kupp officially ruled out, could go to the IR. That can be drastic. You know what I'm saying? Got plenty of fantasy advice on this network. The guys and gals will let you know what you should do if you are a disgruntled Cooper Kupp manager. College football this weekend. Fantastic opening weekend to the college football season last weekend. Obviously, Deion Sanders' school, Colorado, was all the buzz, and they'll be all the buzz as they have their home opener this weekend. Boulder is going to be rocking as Coach Prime and the boys get ready to introduce themselves to their home audience. I'm wondering what uniforms they're going to rock. Should be a lot of fun out there. Big noon kickoff start. But really, there's a couple of marquee matchups My man Hal said, I was talking about something that happened in 1999. Dude looks at me and says, I wasn't born in 1999. I know, but Hal, you know about the St. Louis Rams, don't you? All right, so, and then your man John Madden with Baltimore Colts, they had been long, like Peyton Manning was the quarterback, and he was calling them the Baltimore Colts. But big matchup this weekend in college football is Texas and Alabama. And this is one of my sports betting favorite things to do. Always fade a trendy underdog. Let's all say it together. Always fade a trendy underdog. And the Texas Longhorns are going to come into this game as a trendy underdog. Everybody thinks that Alabama is toast. No more Heisman Trophy quarterback. No real big explosive plays in the passing game. No Jerry Jeudy. No Calvin Ridley. No John Mechie. No Ruggs. You know what I'm saying? No Jahmyr Gibbs. But this number right here at 7.5 is a trap, if you ask me. Now, and the reason why I say it's a trap, if Texas is already a popular underdog on the road, why would bookmakers throw the hook out there, a touchdown in the hook? So if you're already going to this thing liking Texas and you see 7.5, you're like, boy, I get the touchdown and the hook? It seemed like a trap to me. Listen, let's start with Jalen Milroe. Quarterback battle. Hasn't really said he won it. Saban wants to keep his team honest, keep everybody playing, keep everybody competing. But Milroe is the best of the bunch. You saw that last week, despite the game versus Middle Tennessee. Now you got Texas coming to Tuscaloosa. 7.5-point favorites. I'm laying the 7.5 with Alabama. You know why? Because it just seems like it's too obvious with that hook sitting right there. Jalen Milroe played well last week, threw the ball well, ran the ball well. But even more important than that, one of the things that we saw, and yes, the competition was Middle Tennessee, but the explosive passing plays were back in the offense. Burton and Bond both had big down-the-field touchdown catches. If Texas can't stop Burton and Bond from getting down the field, Jalen Milroe is going to hit them deep and open them up, and then he's going to use his rushing ability to finish them off. So I would not sleep on Nick Saban in this one, despite Texas being a trendy underdog. I am going to go with and lay the number with Alabama. Now, if I lose, I come back here and say, you know what, fantasy executive lost. Now, when you see some fantasy stats pop out on, sites like Rival Fantasy for this game, take the higher on Jalen Milroe's rushing number and that one right there. Quinn Ewers in Texas is definitely going to make it a game. They got a lot of strong pieces out there, but I am going to go with the boys in Tuscaloosa. Fantasy exec going to lay the 7.5 on that one. Interesting to see where that line goes on Saturday night as we get closer to kickoff. As we get ready to start this NFL season, this fantasy football season, I want to talk about a dude that helped fantasy owners in the past, and that is a former Syracuse Orangeman, Tampa Bay Buccaneer, wide receiver Mike Williams. A couple of different things about Mike Williams going on with this story, but right now it appears that he is in the ICU on life support due to injuries sustained from a steel beam that fell on him during a job at a construction site. While it's unfortunately the plan is to remove him from life support due to swelling of the brain and a ruptured spinal cord, but nothing has been determined yet. So definitely prayers out to Mike Williams and his family as they go through this tough time. Obviously, you hate to see that happen to anybody. So definitely shout out. Our thoughts and prayers are with Mike Williams, Big Mike Will, and his family. All right, so listen, got a full day of programming coming up right here on the Bettor Sports Network. Make sure you stay tuned. Don't forget Rival Fantasy. Get over there tonight. They got plenty of fantasy sports stats-based contests that you can get involved with. Coming up next is Sportstopia Fantasy Fire and Ice MLB with Drew Silva and my man Chris Crawford. And I'll be back actually at noon today with Sportstopia, getting ready for the day and weekend in the NFL. It's your boy Corey Parson, the fantasy exec. On behalf of Heather Klein, I wish you all a better morning.